Lesson 2, Metals and their Extraction, Year 11, pages 7 to 15, and the reactivity of metals and displacement. So first of all, I want you to watch the video that's in this file as well on Moodle on iron nail and copper chloride. You can see an iron nail dropped into a solution of copper chloride. And you need to think about a few things. The colour of the nail changes. Why does it change? It doesn't rust, but it does become coated in a brown metal. Think about which metal is more reactive out of iron and copper. And if you could feel the tube would get warm. So think about what type of chemical reaction would make that tube go warm. And the word equation, I've helped you out a little bit at the bottom there. So in your book, you should be able to answer the questions once you've watched that video. And that's what your page looks like, so you should be able to answer those questions. The next thing I want you to do is to watch the video of magnesium lead nitrate, and this time a piece of magnesium is being dropped into lead nitrate solution. You leave it a couple of minutes and there's a few things you should notice. There's a solid appearing on the magnesium. It looks like a grey metal. And if you think about which one is more reactive, magnesium or lead, out of the two metals, magnesium is more reactive. So the lead is being displaced. The lead is being kicked out of solution. So that's what's appearing on the magnesium. And that's what you've got there in your book. If you look at this list, they're symbols of metals. There's a few non-metals in there, and as we go through the book, we'll find out why that they're in there. But this is a list, and you can see at the top you've got K, at the bottom you've got AU. Try and work out what this list is telling us and what the list is called. You've then got a PowerPoint to watch on displacement reactions, identifying metal X. So this is your next page in your book. And what you've got is you've got pieces of metal in dimple trays. And if you look at the PowerPoint, identifying metal X, it'll show you what is set up and how it's set up. And we're going to work out or try to identify metal X using all those metals and solutions. So you watch the PowerPoint video on identifying metal X, and you've got a table on page 11 that is blank, so if you can fill it in as I've done there, and then as you go through the video, you tick the boxes where a reaction has occurred and put a cross if there's no reaction. So you need to come out of this voiceover now and go on to the PowerPoint video on identifying metal X and fill that out, and then come back to this. So these are the results if you look at the dimple trays on the PowerPoint. And from those results, you should be able to work out where you put metal X in the following reactivity series. You've got magnesium, iron, copper. So look back at your results and decide where you put metal X and what metal X could be. And you will have a choice of two. You won't be able to identify which one it is out of the two, but you should have a choice of two. And then, have you grasped the idea? You fill in this sheet, and I've done one example for you. So number one says, in a reaction, a metal high in the reactivity series, something one below it. For example, something could displace iron in a reaction, fill in those blanks. And then it says, predict whether reactions will take place or not. Complete the word equations. So I've done B for you. You've started with iron and copper oxide. You're going to need your reactivity series for this. Now, if the metal on its own is more reactive, it can pinch the oxide or pinch the nitrate or pinch the chloride from a less reactive metal. So what you end up with is iron oxide, because iron is more reactive than copper, and copper is left on its own, copper is displaced. And then there are a few other questions that you need to go through. If you look at 3B, again, you'll end up with a choice of 2 metals. And then question 4, you've got the colours there, what happens and why, and then finally what happens after a week. And you can see that we start with blue copper sulfate and an iron nail, which is silvery grey, and after a week we end up with red, orange or brown coating the nail, and we get green iron sulfate solution there. So think what happens after a week and why. Why does copper metal coat the nail and the solution turn green from blue?